allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I know this is a joint meeting, but I'll start off and welcome everybody. Glad you had a real quiet time since the election until now. I guess things now we start to rock and roll and try to put this town on a solid footing for funding for next year. So I'm gonna preface like I normally do, because I've received budgets from the school. I've received Jim's memo that outlined, the projections, and obviously every year at this stage of where we are, we don't know any more than what there's a lot of fluid pieces to this, and we all know it. We don't know what our revenues look like. We don't know really where the town council is going to weigh in on a number of capital improvements and substantive issues that you're going to have to wrestle with during this budgetary process. Obviously, we'll do our due diligence as we go through and vet out some of the things, but we've got some real big issues to look at this year. But I kind of felt a little uneasy seeing a tax rate being thrown out there already when this is so preliminary at this stage that it's really kind of unfair to even put the taxpayers on any edge. We get a lot of work to do from the council's standpoint, from the school standpoint, from the budget committee standpoint. I will say, after nearly 20 years of being involved in this community and this process, this is going to be the one year that I am going to insist that I step aside. I have a lot of other personal issues going on, so when we convene our meeting as a budget committee next week, we will probably have a new chairman. And it probably makes sense now that we have a new council chairman, a new, school committee chair, so oh no, it's not new.
Vice Chair. We have a new Vice Chair.
I stepped right in it, didn't I?
Looks like you're staying on, Chris.
No, I don't think so.
You can.
But I wanted to put that out there because I do have some major commitments that I'm dealing with right now. So we'll get through that. And obviously I'll be around to deal with any of the issues, to help guide us through where we need to be. But with that, I'm not going to, belabor you with a lot of issues tonight, but, I would like to hear from both the perspective of the town council and the school administration and school board as to, what do you really think the big issues are that we have to wrestle with? I know pension's going to be an issue. Carryovers is what we went through last year. We've got union issues, we settled with contracts, revenue, landfill, where we need to have some sort of reporting on what happened with the landfill monies. We took a year last year and took some monies away from that to offset some budgetary issues, but that money really needs to stay intact if possible. We'd like to know what the projection of that is and where that goes. There are other members of the committee, and I'm sure we'll all have an opportunity at some point in time tonight to voice our concerns, but where do we stand on capital improvements, and what are the biggest issues that you're wrestling with? I know we left last year with, we had some sewering issues with the school systems, and I pretty much am pretty comfortable with where we are with that right now. And I think you guys done a tremendous job in trying to keep that, that piece of that intact. But, I don't know if other things have cropped up during the year that we're just, going to be confronted with that we didn't have any knowledge of last year. So I'll defer to anybody else at this point. But
I'll speak for the school committee, and members can join in if I leave anything out. As far as the sewer system goes, we're still working with DEM. They rejected our most recent site, which was going to be right between Brayton Road and the softball field, because it didn't absorb the nitrogen enough. So our engineer, the school committee approved at the last meeting to send our engineer to, I believe it's Stonebridge, who owns this owns the land right up here, and ask them if we can look at a couple of sites that they own, because that looks like the best avenue for us. and then we'll continue the process. We send in monthly reports. Doug is in constant contact with DEM, so they're aware. We just got notified that they didn't want to accept our plan, and that was our best site on land that we had. We did several test sites, but that was the best one, so we're still working very closely with DEM on that. A couple of things that the committee has already decided to use some of their surplus on. They've approved $78,000 in additional computers for the middle school and the high school, 100 each. We also just approved the installation and rehabilitation of the seats in the auditorium, and that was $58,000. So we're taking that right out of our surplus, so that won't be in the budget. But there are a couple of other items that we wanted to talk to both the committee, the Budget Committee, and to the council about. And last month, we had a meeting here regarding safety in our schools as a result of what happened in Newtown, Connecticut. And one of the overriding, probably the top priority that we heard, and several council members were present, and I thanked them for finding the time to come, was that the need for a school resource officer. Currently, well, as of Monday, the chief was able to find a way to assign Sergeant Cabral to our schools for the remainder of the year, and I've met with him and thanked him for being able to do that. But it doesn't address us moving forward, for next year. The school committee believes that we would like to help out in any, find a way to help with the council as to how would we pay for this position next year. So that's not in our budget proposal.
Okay.
We do recognize it, and it's in the slips that it's an item that's outstanding. Our question, I guess it would come down to is how much would both of us commit, to the position, and then we probably would take it and build it into our operational side and not put it into, take it out of our surplus, but
Yep.
keep it in operation. So that's still outstanding. So when you look at our numbers, that's to be determined. We also, a second issue that came up late this fall was when the fire department was doing their inspections. They cited us for not having fire sprinklers in our two woodshop areas here at the high school, the two classrooms, and one at the middle school. So we've subsequently priced out the cost of the system, and it would cost approximately $60,000, just over $60,000. Now, our question, I guess, to the Budget Committee, or the thought is, we would like to take that out of our reserve fund, so it doesn't show up. It's a one-time expense, it's something that we have to have, and we'd like to, pay for it that way, so it wouldn't show up in our capital request, because it's not in there now. And the third issue is something that we've talked about, and the committee really would like to get the feedback, if not now, but maybe later, from the Budget Committee, is a facility study for our high school and our middle school. The middle school's 37 years old. Our high school's 47. Our high school is really running its course as far as what it was built for. Most schools.
Middle school's 37, you said?
It was 76, and this is 66. So 37, 46, my math's right,
Okay.
yeah. So while what we want to do is with the facility study is to be able to use that as a blueprint to determine what needs to be done. And if repairs do need to be done, among other things, heating needs to be repaired in both buildings and upgraded. It's one thing for me, it's one thing for the school committee, our maintenance director to say at meetings, we need this. What we want is
Validation.
really validation of that fact for voters and for the people to say, hey, look, this is a legit, this is what they're asking for. So it won't be open to interpretation as to what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. So I've talked to JCJ Architecture, the firm that built our elementary schools, that did such a good job with us. They recommend that we allocate, they said 50 to 75,000. And I recommend to the committee that we take the lower number and put that in. Now, we haven't put it in the budget yet.
Yep.
So we put it out there for, that we would like to discuss with you. Is it something that if, the feeling was we need it, then do we ask for, do we pay for it this year out of the surplus, or do we, wait another year? So,
Well, there are probably a number of things that, I kind of concur personally on, obviously, everybody will speak as an individual tonight, but I know that over the years, we were very good at, some years of attacking like roofs and, the infrastructure within the buildings, but HVAC issues have never been addressed, other than the remodeling of one wing here and.
Right, the science wing.
And creating the science wing, we've
Guidance.
really done nothing in this structure. And we did, while we've done roofs at the middle school, there are other things like how long these windows and all the other things that go along with, keeping these infrastructures up. The pointing of the buildings are, have been demonstrated year in, year out. I think it would behoove us to take a look at, not to determine whether or not we should build new or something
No.
like that, but at least give us a roadmap as to what are the real pending issues that we're faced with.
all right, our goal is to maximize the life of the buildings.
Right.
And what's the best way to do that? And the committee believes, and I believe, that having that kind of study done would provide that for everybody.
It would definitely help us look at trying to put in some sort of projection of a capital plan on, how to factor in, capital outlays over the next 5 to 10 years if we knew from both your standpoint on these structures and some of the more dilapidated, structures we have on the town side that, obviously they should be doing, probably the same kind of things where there's significant, exposure to us.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're thinking is because we need to have a plan go forward. We want them to help prioritize those for us.
Right.
So that we're not sort of just picking something here and something here, whoever screamed the loudest about this, and we're
Right.
taking care of that. So for that very reason, and I know we had talked last year, I know we didn't do it about these three bodies getting together perhaps in June or July and start working on these.
And just going back to the budget that we've submitted on the preliminary basis, it's a 3.3% increase overall. It has a 2.6, it's really a 2.6% increase on the tax rate based on Doug's interpretation of the numbers. It includes just one additional 2/5 per position. There are no other new positions in the job, in our budget, and that's to help support our Ranger School population with their math scores on the kneecap. Other than that, our assumptions are that our numbers will still stay consistent enrollment, and that we'll squeak by again with class sizes of 24, 25 in several of our elementary grades. That could change, as we know, because we're obligated to do this so early. 2 months from now when we meet or whenever, I could say, well, I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Right.
But as of right now, we built it based on those assumptions. So there's nothing new in there. And on a quick and dirty look, our salaries take up $300,000 of our increase. $400,000 goes to special education. $100,000 goes to the med school, and another $100,000 to medical. Those really are the four drivers, and they're not as bad as they have been in the past, with medical costs, insurance and things like that.
No additional unfunded mandates that have been passed down?
The med school is.
Is it?
When they did the funding formula a couple years ago, the state mandated that districts now pay for schools such as the med school.
Okay.
Davies Voc, for years, Davies Voc up in Lincoln was free for them sending districts. Well, now all those districts, when they got the windfall, when the state aid, a lot of them had to subtract out now the cost to send their kids to Davies and other similar charter schools. So it's now $100,000. It was a $100,000 increase over this year that we have to pay for the tuitions for those students.
Phased in over 5
Being phased in over a, 4-year, 5-year
5.
period?
Okay.
So that's really the, and we're going to be talking about more computers,
Yep.
technology, because rides has been unclear as of right now, they're saying in 2014, in 2015, 14-15 school year, when they take the new Common Core assessments, they want, as of right now, grades to come off at one time to take them. So in other words, you take the entire 4th grade offline, and they have to have computers. You take the 5th grade offline and do them all at once.
Okay.
Currently, we don't have enough computers
To do that.
that will meet the needs, the software package needs that they're requiring. Even though we just purchased 100 new ones, the committee, we still have to work this out. That's probably something that we'll be having to deal with. If not this year, certainly a year from now, we'll be saying, this is a need. So if not this year, certainly next year, we'll be wrestling with that. But right now, it's nothing that we're aware of that is thrown at us. We haven't wrestled with it.
On the town council side, obviously, we've done our first pass, and it's only the beginning. I think, obviously, for us, capital improvements are a big thing. Pension costs and healthcare. Those are the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to have the greatest impact on the town.
Is, on the healthcare side, is that comparative to, are you both still the same?
Yes.
Yep.
We have Blue Cross Blues, yes, the same pool.
The renewal rate is the same for both municipals.
But the town has, in some cases, different plans than we have.
Okay.
The town has gone to the health savings account across the whole town. So
So-
it's now called, it's Blue Cross product, but it's called Blue Solutions.
Well, that's kind of why I'm asking. I thought the end result of that was that the town was going to save money doing
Well,
this.
initially, but we still don't have the final, cost like any of these plans.
Okay.
Nobody knows what the true health costs are going to be until they come out with them.
All right, so are we just using like a place marker to?
Yeah.
Is like,
We have an
is the buckets
estimate of
like
what we
capital,
believe it's going
pension,
to be.
healthcare? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's,
So obviously, as those numbers become more concrete, then
Yep.
we can look at those.
okay.
As far as capital improvements are concerned, we have the same concerns regarding some of our buildings.
Oh, yeah.
And anybody who knows me knows that I firmly believe in education, and
Yep.
I believe that these schools have to be maintained, and we're all going to have to look at where our dollars are best spent. At the same time, we have to keep in mind, what can the taxpayers bear?
Right.
So that's one of the things that I think in the next few weeks that all three of us, I think, are going to have multiple meetings.
Well, I agree.
To really work together, because the only way we're going to come up with a good number and take care of the needs of the entire town, including schools, municipal, and everything else, is to work together. We are really one town, and we need to do it all together.
Yeah, I think it's, at the end of the day, if we work together, even if it's just to get on the table those issues that have just been lurking in the bag, that, everybody's been ignoring, something formal out there that, we can at least attest to every year, since we've known about this time and time and time again, we just keep continuing to ignore it. And we do wind up picking the stupidest one to deal with.
Who screams the loudest?
And because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we can afford to do. And, but it would be nice if we'd be able to explain that to people, that's, we're in this boat because this is where we are, and I don't think there's an easy solution to any of this. Believe me, I'm not, we've all got our hands, tied into this to try to find something that will make this work. And I at least applaud the effort to try to find, and get a level playing ground as to where the problems really are, because we're never going to get out of our holes until we try to fix those things.
And just, Chris, you asked before, and I failed to mention it, everyone's under contract on the
Okay.
school side, except for, including Council 94, but they expire as of June 30th.
Okay.
And we actually have our first negotiation session with them next week.
Okay.
So they're the only group that we have to work with.
Okay.
So as we go through this process every year, and we all sit here with each other as we have to work together, and revenue's always something we never seem to see. So I was watching TV a couple of years ago, and I was watching how the new schools that were being built were getting 40% reimbursement. It's a wealth-based formula, and we got the least, right, 30, 31, something, yeah. 30's the lowest you can get, and that's what they gave us. So I was sitting there watching the General Assembly, and they're saying these new schools in our same area are getting 40. Now, some schools get 80. Some, like Fall River gets 90. Schools in Rhode Island, Woonsocket, they built 2 middle schools for 80, same time as we did, which is fine. But someone's not going to get 40 when we're getting 30. So I texted Representative Edwards, who's sitting back there, and I'm texting him, Jay, what about Tiverton? What about Tiverton? So I'd like you just to mention, Jay, what a wonderful thing happened, was it yesterday? If you could tell everyone what you did. Well, what you did, though, to make it happen, HR, whatever. Well, it will, tell everyone. what you're trying to do.
I submitted a bill for the second year,
Yes.
to increase the funding percentage from 30% to 40% of students would match the other towns proportion of the cost and
Where did I get mine?
you get the same, it would be retroactive, to be going forward. It's worth about 4 to 5%.
Rep. Edwards, are we the only community that's
No.
at 30?
No.
But we're the only one that's significant.
We're the only one that's built during that time frame. Since we built, the rest were higher. So the state can't say this is going to hurt them in multiple ways. So we'll be up there to testify. Will that be nice?
Yes.
Would you like us there?
I submitted a bill yesterday's House 5037. And when it comes up for hearing before finance, we'll let you know. So
Okay.
we'll talk.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just
Thank
a
you.
thought, though. If you recall, Jay, we went before, was it the House Committee, asking to be increased to 40% with these schools, and we were rejected. Then we have attempted to do this, okay, unsuccessfully.
But
Hopefully now.
things are different now.
Legislation usually takes
Yeah.
2 to 3 years
Times to go.
before it comes around, and that's up to the number of bills that actually pass. Generally takes 2 to 3 times, so this is the second or third time for this bill, so it could be a year. And with Tiverton, receiving some very favorable reviews education-wise in the Port Barton School,
That gives us
have
leverage.
something you can actually show that you accomplished without having received increased funding.
And since we're the cash cow for the tolls and the squawking ducks.
Not yet.
Filed another great bill today, right?
Twice he was on the radio today. Twice he was on the radio today. Would you like to tell him of your new position, Mr. Edwards? Okay, thank you.
Thanks for trying to help. On the town side on contracts, where are we stand with those? Are we like still got a
All
bunch of?
contracts have been negotiated and are in place.
We've got one coming up.
One coming up.
Right, we've got one coming up, the Teamsters is going to expire June 30th.
Okay.
We're going to begin negotiations very soon on that.
Well, you know, come on, anybody else have commentary or comments, questions? I mean, it's,
Are there any questions, Laura?
I have lots, but.
There you go.
Okay,
Throw 'em out there.
Well, those of us that walk the streets this election season probably pretty much heard what I heard. Probably going, I guess, into the 5th year of the recession here in Rhode Island. Unemployment is still over 10.4%. And I got quite an earful knocking on doors, seniors and working as well. And it really wasn't just people that were living in smaller homes. It was their own large homes out in the south end of town that are hurting as well. So I'm just thinking that we need to have a bare bones budget, necessity only. I don't think we can afford in this year, I'm not even going to say luxuries, I'm going to say some of the necessities. So I guess my mindset is that we need to keep it lean. That's about it.
My turn?
sure.
Should we send out for coffee?
Just on the health insurance side of it, with the town, all town current employees are on HSA accounts, right?
Right.
Even Teamsters?
Except Teamsters.
No,
Except Teamsters.
Except Teamsters.
insurance.
Except Teamsters.
And they probably would never be, right? Based on their health and welfare system of
The
Teamsters?
Teamsters? Yeah, no, they won't be on.
Are we planning on tracking separately the cost so that we can see how much money these HSAs turn out to save? Because it could be something that the school committee might want to consider in their negotiations when they come up. It would be nice to have some hard, to split out, even if it's just on a spreadsheet. It might, be difficult, but it would be really advantageous for us all to know exactly how much the HSA's accounts are saving us.
Well, we received the first, it goes into effect, it went into effect January 1st.
Right, I'm not looking for numbers tonight, I'm just going
All
forward.
right, well, the January Blue Cross bill was significantly lower than it has been in the past.
That's what we would expect. It would be nice to have hard numbers so that we
Well,
can
we
use
will,
them going
we will
forward.
have hard numbers as we go forward.
Okay,
Yeah, once we build the experience.
right, so that,
I mean,
but
we're
just
10
so that we
days
track
into
them,
this thing.
so that we split them apart is what I'm getting at.
I know.
Do we get the same collaborative rate on this Blue Solutions? Do we belong to the same collaborative with this HSA, or do we get a different, we get a different package, we get a different rate, so it's,
I would think,
If we were to adopt the same program, it would be the same rate because we're rated together.
right.
but the school has a different program than the town.
Right.
correct.
Yeah, at this point, the schools by themselves have a few different options depending on which union, as I'm sure the town side does as well. So we probably have 10 different options town-wide, so it's not one plan for everyone.
And are there other cities and towns that have HSAs in that collaborative, so they would be working with that group, and then the rest of the people that don't have
It's
them
our
are off with
experience
us,
ratings.
this group?
Everyone's rated individually as a community, so another community's run rate of their insurance expenses wouldn't affect our
Our experience
rate.
ratings are blended together, and then they base the rate of the plan off of that experience
have.
rating. That's where we're put together as a group.
Okay.
And the towns branched off into the HSA territory, so then they calculate their
premium.
cost, they're based on the combined experience rating.
Okay, so, but we're still getting the benefit of the
Yes.
combined.
Oh, absolutely,
experience.
sure.
Yes.
So whatever the renewal rate is for the town will be the same for the schools for this coming year, and we'll know that in about a month.
Meaning the increase, so
Yeah.
regardless of which product we buy,
That's correct.
their product will go up
Everyone will go up
X
8%,
percent,
for
ours will
example.
go up the same X
It doesn't
percent.
matter which variation of it you have.
Okay,
We're starting from a baseline,
Yeah, the baseline cost is what would be different.
Starting from a lower base.
okay. Just to get to what Chris said
so our
initially
increases
about the tax information that was discussed at Monday's council meeting, I would agree that it's premature to bring out tax information at this point, particularly since it's the budget committee that puts those two pieces together, and the two pieces hadn't even been talked about yet. So I would encourage us all to hold off on, I know we're all interested in it, we all want to keep it as low as possible, and we all need to see it, but I just think it was a little bit premature. in my
Well,
mind.
there are a number of things that concern me when I see that. We've just gone through a townwide revow. And we as a group, from my standpoint, from the budget committee standpoint, don't really know what the end value of the town wound up. We know we went through a review process and abatement process, and we factored taxes based on what it was projected at, but we don't know where it is today. And all those things come into play in calculating where we're gonna be after we put revenues in, and we see where, where we're going on the expenditure side. So to come out with a rate now that just would, to me, it's very, very premature, and it's just gonna put people on edge, and it's just not, it's not warranted. I'm very uncomfortable doing that. And I know that that's what people are asking, but it's,
We're looking to determine where we are and where we're heading. All estimates, this is not the final number, we all know that. We have a preliminary value for the town, which again is an estimate. It won't be known for a little while yet, but at least we know where we are, where we're beginning, so we don't get surprised later on. This is not meant to be the final analysis.
No, but it is confusing, because you put out one number, and then we, the very next night, put out a different number, and we had several members of the public that were here that were very confused. So I guess you're trying to put out a number, except that you don't always have the most recent information. So at best, I think it's just confusing.
Well, I think,
We were putting out.
no.
Well,
I mean-
I don't think you were either,
No,
but
no.
they get, the point is they get
Yeah,
published.
which is unfortunate. I mean, but in the discussions,
Right.
you need to have some sort of baseline number that we're discussing.
Well, would it make sense for one body to be putting out those numbers then? and giving them to
Even when
everyone
the budget
else,
committee
so
puts
we're
out
all-
its numbers, we work hand in hand with your assessor.
Right.
And your tax collection, there's nothing that's done in a vacuum anywhere.
Yeah.
It's done in a collaborative effort. It's never done, well, based on what all these numbers are, and we haven't heard from anybody else yet, we're gonna put a number out there, and then people go, 63 cents, man, we don't understand this. Believe me, my phone ran off the hook for 2
Mine
days.
did
It was-
too. They were really upset.
Yeah, but again, it was in discussions, like I said, this is
Yeah,
preliminary,
I-
and this
I-
is based off
I get you.
estimated numbers that, that we all have been working with.
Yeah, but what
So,
makes people panic is
yeah.
their perception, and their perception is their reality, so. I think it'll take a little while to undo all of that, and it'll be an arduous job in order to get that done, because what they've seen and what they heard now is what they believe.
Well, and your meetings aren't even taped.
No, the budget committee, I don't even have a budget to discuss anything.
Right, I think,
All I've asked is just be somewhat, and I know it wasn't done with any spirit of, it was done with good intentions, but it's really, that's the last thing that we should be doing, and when we do it, we should do it together. It's just common sense that we try to get there as a group. We may disagree at the end, which, about different things, but at least if we all, and we've worked very well in the past of coming to that formulary so that we all understand it, we're all on the same page with it. And right now, it's just way, way premature to do that. And it's just, I feel bad for some people who are really put off by it, but it's because it detracts from all the good work that's going to happen from here on out to get to where we're going to be in May, so. And, like I
People
said,
will see the good work
well,
in the final analysis.
they're not going to want to see it at all if they hear it.
Especially if somebody or several other people put out other budgets, I mean, that's a whole nother
Right.
aspect that hasn't even begun to take form, so we don't know if there'll be other budgets. We only know about what we have in front of us, so that number is out there with other budgets that could come through as the process goes along. It's just, it is premature.
I think to speak in terms of we're trying to keep our expenditures to a certain level or, certain percentages, those are fine issues to deal with, but throwing out tax rates right now is very, just to me, it's not where we need to be.
This is the first time I'm hearing that people had a problem with us discussing a rate, and I'm not.
I give you my phone messages.
Yeah, and sometimes I question that, because my phone never rings when these sort of things happen. But I think doing this process, not in a vacuum, or doing it in some clandestine cave where no one pays attention because no one's allowed to pay attention, is not what we want to do. And if we're getting some new counselors up to speed, we're doing this process for the first time in maybe a while, very thoroughly. And I think without talking about the implications, the tax implications, maybe we need to assert that it is absolutely the preliminary first draft.
which we did.
I know,
Which
but
we did.
I know, but
And I actually
But-
asked Sally if her numbers were solid, and she said absolutely not.
yeah.
So it wasn't
So,
like.
I mean, there's context to it, and maybe perhaps we haven't done this type of workshop where people have paid enough attention to even notice those sorts of things in the past, and now we are, so I think we'll all certainly be cognizant of that going forward, but I'm not sure that the grievous error was.
I wasn't trying to put it out
No,
that
no,
it
I'm
was
just
done that
saying,
way
you know.
either. It was just trying to ask people to be.
And I like to talk frankly, and I like to talk in as round, in as square a numbers as I possibly can. And we can't do that if we wink and nod
Right.
to figures that we're trying to deal with. I mean, we know we need to grapple with staying within a range of levy increase, and to contextualize that only serves to reinforce the cuts we need to make or the repositioning of.
But we have those same issues on the school committee side, that we also are looking at ourselves as a town. So if if we start doing that too, and start calculating a rate based upon information that we got from the school committee, and this is what we look like as a town, you're gonna have lots of numbers out there, and that's my only concern, is it can be confusing. Because, you're responsible for the municipal budget, we're responsible for the school budget, but in the end, I think we're all looking at one budget to say, where are we? So who's responsible for putting those together and saying what that is? I mean, if you're doing that on Monday night, and then we're doing that on Tuesday night, and then they're doing it on Wednesday night, that's my concern.
With all
I
due
don't think we
respect-
should do anything behind, that wasn't the suggestion, creating
No,
some confusion.
I know, and, you know, quite frankly, I would be surprised if people weren't confused. I've got about 900 pages. There's about 10,000 numbers in this book. It should be confusing. If it's not confusing, it's too easy. But I certainly don't think that we went out and said, well, everybody in the town of Tiverton, your taxes are now going to be $19.61. That is absolutely not what we did. And, you know,
No,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm just
what
trying to keep the fearmongers from, because they could be more
You
of
know,
a
but-
attraction
And I
at
certainly,
times.
I certainly appreciate that people sometimes hear one thing or read one number and they extrapolate whatever their worst fears are. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
But-
it's very difficult, Chris, when you're trying to discuss numbers, because even with preliminary numbers, people want to know what is the impact.
Yeah.
Right.
And to sit there, and I'll tell you personally, I even asked, what would the tax rate be based on these numbers? And that's not, what it's going to be, but we need to know that. We can't, again, work in a vacuum and look at a number and say, okay, it's gone up 3.6%. Well, that means nothing to me until I know what impact does it have on the tax rate.
But when we do our budget, we do the school department's budget and what our concerns are. And we always keep the taxpayers in mind. We always know what our rate is. However, when that was published, it said we were at the cap. We're 300 and something thousand below the cap. We're at 3.3 total and a 2.6 opening. Secondly, our number is our number. Quite frankly, the council should be working on the council's number and not worry about the school department as far as what we're spending or what we're proposing. And quite frankly, it does put, Brett, I'm glad you didn't get the calls, but my committee members do get the calls. And they got angry calls as to saying, what's the school department doing? Okay, that's a fact, okay? And we, quite frankly, I don't appreciate it. My people who do this don't appreciate it, and I'm sure my bosses don't appreciate it, because that was not our number. Our number's significantly less.
Bill, I think the reporter was irresponsible because we repeated over and over again that that was not your number, and I asked Sally publicly if that was your number. So I think we need to put a little blame on the reporter because what we said out loud was not what was reported. So it really wasn't us that did it, because I actually, Sally,
No, the
asked you.
council didn't do it. Unfortunately,
Well, I'm
Mr.
just-
Gonzalo said it.
No,
let
Mr.
me-
Gonzalez,
excuse me,
he did not
excuse me.
say it.
Well, the tax
If-
rate was discussed.
If I can interject here. This was informative, based on the information, and I did indicate
That was wrong.
that they were all estimates. And I indicated where I got the school department's estimate, okay, and indicated it was all preliminary. We need to know in what direction we're going. Yes, the school committee is responsible for the school department, but the council is responsible for the town.
No, you're responsible for the town, Mr.
Listen,
Gonzalo.
listen.
Not listen.
Do you guys establish the tax rate, or
Neither
does
do
the
you.
town?
You don't.
The town does.
The council does not.
The town
The
establishes.
town council does not.
Committee establishes.
The budget committee does.
Let's just try to put this in a little bit better perspective. And I appreciate where everybody's coming from. And I kind of got a feel after, because as soon as I got the calls, I went to Jim's presentation that is before us tonight, and which does have stale date, numbers in it. And it was based on a projection that was done last year, basically a projection of a 5-year window. It would be foolhardy to say that the council would be beholden to a budget that's put forth 2 years ago for next year coming. It would just be foolhardy to even hold you accountable to that. It's nice to project out to say where we might be from today, 3 years out, but really when we're putting it together to actually come to the tax rate, it's a different story. And that's the difference. And that's, I don't want to get into, some heated argument over something that was never intended to, I just think it was done, and it wasn't thought through on how it was done. And you're right, the reporter maybe didn't understand it and put it out there, and it did create some dissension around town. And I think the fact that we're discussing it and discussing it intelligently to let people know that it wasn't done maliciously, and it wasn't done to put something out there to be the first at the, whatever it is. It's, all I'm saying is there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it needs to be done together as a group before we start to publish things that we're gonna put the people on notice of what their tax rate's gonna be. That's all I'm asking, and I think we all agree to that. So I'd like to move on to some of the other things within, like the municipal side of the budget, like, police pension. Where are we with that? Has the report been done? Do we know what the final end number is? Are we getting everything into municipal affairs? That's one issue that I've got concerns over.
I had actually thought, I also am interested in the police pension. There are a lot of leftovers from last year. I know the budget committee
Yep.
and the council had issues with the pump-out boat, and then between the time of last year's referendum and now, there must have been some new information that came to the council, because now a pump-out boat and a new service has been approved by the prior council. So my thought, and with the schools too, I wanted to get an update on some of the, the sewer project, the capital, how that's coming out of the surplus, what does the surplus look like now? Because I know you spent a lot of money on these one-offs, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm not denigrating that. But I had thought it might be beneficial for the first couple of budget committee meetings. Next Thursday, we're having our first meeting. We don't have a chair yet. We haven't elected our officers. But I thought, rather than us electing our officers and then starting right away with the Historical Cemetery Commission, the Arts Council, the things that we do first, not to say that they're not important, but I think we have a lot of issues that need to be talked through. I think it would be good if we could start the discussion early.
Yeah, I agree.
And my thought was that maybe next Thursday night, after we elect our officers, have time with either the council, next week, the following week do the school committee, or do the school next Thursday night, and the following week do the council, so that we can have an in-depth discussion of some of these big topics. Not that we want to come to a consensus on what a bottom line budget number is, but to talk through some of the issues. Landfill was an issue last year. Let's talk that through. Police pension is an issue. Let's talk that through. Pump-out boat,
Town
sewer
audit, where we
study.
are with cash, there's a whole number of things we need to know.
So you're
It's-
looking for like a council workshop one night and then a school committee workshop the
The
next?
following week.
I think it'd be a meeting, not a workshop.
Pardon me?
It should be a meeting, not a workshop.
Right,
We'll just schedule it as a meeting,
a budget committee meeting with
the town council.
municipal budget, big topics. The next would be a budget committee meeting with school committee, big
But your
topics.
expectation is the council will be at the first one and then the school committee at the second one,
Right.
or vice versa?
Right.
And I think we should also, just to follow up on Laura, I think we should do that, and with the budget that we'll be working on, bring them in more often. I think last year they came in twice, the school department, 3 times?
Came in 4 times.
4 times.
At least?
4 times,
Okay. Council?
none,
None.
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 Okay. So I think we should have the council come in at least 3 or 4 times.
Well, I think
And
we
the school
will.
committee
Well,
come back.
I think the issue is to try to get to the substance of what we're getting at tonight, is, what is, the major items that we're gonna be wrestling with. And last year, the budget committee had a very difficult time wrestling with things like police pension, wrestling with things of major capital purchases. We wound up putting in capital purchases that, quite frankly, we were at odds with the council about, which really fried some of us about having to do that. But it was,
Well, and it could have been preempted had
Right.
we had those and the opportunity to discuss. And we're not going to agree on everything,
no,
but at least we can get everything out in the open and discuss things like rational, reasonable people up front, so there's nothing hidden and nothing to surprise us the last week in March, when we're all scrambling.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I called for this meeting, to get this
well, this
process
is, this
going.
meeting, we should do every year.
Yeah, and which is the law. I mean, it's what we're supposed to do. And again, everything right now is preliminary.
Yep.
We all need to look at our budgets and to see where there's some cost savings that we all can come up with. And again, we do need to discuss those big ticket items that have a major impact on these budgets. And I think all of us here are willing to do that.
Yeah, I think we are.
You know, but again, you know, this, to me, this is a working group, all of us. And we should not be pitting each other against each other.
And that's, I think that's what we're trying to get to.
Right,
is try
and
to-
that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely trying to
that
avoid
is
that.
not
And if-
what
if
the
we're going to
council
agree to
wants.
disagree on something, we can do it, you know, in a very
Exactly.
professional, gentleman type manner, and, you know, obviously, like I said, if we don't agree on, but at least if we have our facts together. Last year, the discussion over the landfill monies was arcane. You know, it was, in, maybe both sides were right or wrong, I don't know what, but at the end of the day, we still never got a full accounting as to what's there. You know, and we made a judgment on trying to preserve some monies to offset something in the budget to try to make things work, and was it the right thing? I'll be the first one to tell you, if the numbers are wrong, we made a big mistake. So I want to make sure that we don't wind up making those kind of mistakes. I can tell you, and Jim can tell you, that many years ago, how many times did we sell that industrial park? That we put $600,000 in the budget that we, you know, projected on revenue? We didn't do it once, we did it twice. You know, big mistakes, you know, there were, you know, and all I'm trying to do is, those are pitfalls we need to absolutely try to stop from doing. And they're all well-meaning, they're all well-intended, but at the end of the day, the people who suffer are the taxpayers.
So you're looking for council on Thursday and school committee the next Thursday? What do you-
Or school on Thursday, and whichever works.
Well, obviously, you know, we're going to have to, you know, poll our members to see, first of all, our
Yeah,
availability.
And I kind of expected that was gonna have to be the case, you know, it's very short notice for you guys to, you know, and I know you got a very time-consuming, you know, demanding, a schedule ahead of you, if you've got enough other things to deal with.
Chris, so you guys would be meeting on the 17th, correct?
We're every Thursday.
That's
till
next Thursday.
May, so I don't know what the dates are.
And then you would,
Yes, you do, because I couldn't.
and then you guys would start.
Everybody has one.
You want me to tell you which ones I'm actually gonna show up at?
Oh, no, Chris.
You have it in front of you. No,
So you're looking to have one group or the other on Thursday, on the 17th, and then the
I'm
other
really
on
looking
the
forward to local
24th.
person on this
And if,
committee.
you know, if everybody can't come, that's okay. Not perfect, but
Okay.
the more the merrier.
Expecting the whole council to come.
Well, she is, but
Well, it would be, the more the better.
oh, wait, we're all coming.
would you be able to let us know?
Well, we have a
After
meeting
the
Monday.
14th.
Yeah, we have a meeting
Just
Monday.
Have you established, I don't know this, believe me, I'm not trying to, have you even, as a council, formulated who's gonna be the liaison to the budget committee? Do we even, oh, we start, okay, that's fine. Because I don't think last year we knew, you know.
Ed and Denise
Yeah.
are our council liaison.
All right, and we should, at some point in time next week, when we have a meeting, at least point somebody to at least communicate with the council and the school committee.
That would be a good
That would
idea.
be a good idea, so that we can, when we have these kind of things, if something, you know, can we pick up the phone and those members can call each other at least to get the dialogue going? Because I do know that scheduling meetings is not always the most easiest thing to do, especially from a public body standpoint, to make sure that everything's done. And I'm not saying we do anything nefarious or beyond, believe me, I work for the guy who
Yeah,
monitors all
you
the
don't want
meetings.
those
stuff.
letters, right?
You know, and I know the council, we're going to be planning workshops of our own to go through the municipal budget. So, I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, we're all starting at whatever numbers and then trying to come up with the best portion.
So Sally, you'll be at the meeting on Monday, so if they can't meet, let us know and we'll see if we can.
Okay.
But we'll try to
What
figure
meeting's
out
Monday?
And
after the budget.
Good. Just one final question. I did
Sure.
listen to most. I did listen to most, well, quite a bit of Monday night's meeting, which I'm thankful that I had 2 more points. Thankful that it was online so I could view it. I really do appreciate that. But what I didn't hear are the library bans in the budget. Is the library going, are we starting the bonding process for the library?
I'm meeting with them, I have a meeting next Tuesday. Well, actually, I met with the library today to get an updated timeline. And we have a couple of options for funding. One could result in a very short window where there might be a little bit of interest paid, and then another one, it wouldn't start until the next fiscal year.
Okay.
So we haven't ironed all of that out yet.
So we may or may not have preliminary library funding
I'm
in
trying to
next
set
year's
up another
budget.
meeting next Tuesday
Okay,
with, they're looking at conventional financing and a bond.
okay.
So,
And the other thing that I heard on Monday night, which I thought was terrific, was that you were going to be meeting with, to see if we can restructure the TIP bond. That would be interested to find out in those.
I thought I would talk to the gentleman when he comes to talk to me about the library.
Perfect. And just as a final thing, because, from my mouth, I promise, and I will use this public venue, I, as one individual on the budget committee, would think it would be a very good thing to have those meetings taped.
Yes.
There is no money in the budget to pay young Andrew, to tape them for us. So I would ask, maybe at the council meeting on Monday, you could put out a call for volunteers if someone is interested in taping the budget committee meetings on Thursday nights. It's,
What would the cost be to take those?
I have no idea.
Nancy, what the town clerk.
Put the kid on the spot. It's about $50 a meeting.
50?
It's $50 a meeting.
Yeah, but we're done way before 11.
It's not by the hour.
We can do a half price.
We get them cheap, it's a flat rate.
Half price.
well, if there's some, maybe
Why
there's
was
some
college
carry
paid for?
forward monies that we could use to pay to tape the meetings.
There are no carry.
I don't know.
No, there are still monies now.
You have about,
It
well,
won't be,
you carried over 400,000 into this year.
and that's, you know, we're looking for the audit too, that's another thing. I don't know where
Right.
it stands, but.
Just, if we need to have, if a volunteer steps up to do it, terrific. If there's room and some monies that we could use to have them taped, that would be terrific. I just think it's
Yeah,
really
they'd like
important. And we will be discussing adding it to the budget for next year. Or I will.
The budget committee hasn't had a
propose
budget
it.
in
No.
5 years. You know,
But there is a line item.
There's a line on it, but we
Yeah.
just have never asked for money.
No, you
It's,
haven't.
you know, it's, I won't ask for it, the committee will vote. So, questions from any of the newer members? Any questions? But
So I get the 17th to the 24th. Questions?
Sure, right off.
Well, they're not gonna make it on the 17th, that's clear.
Some type of a 5-year plan for capital and highway and fire and the police department. We had a 5-year plan put into effect when Ray Hool was here. That's when I first got on the budget committee. We've never seen one since.
Well, Jim, I think you still do one, don't you?
I've got a 5-year plan on my desk now,
You do, yeah.
okay, that requires about $5 million in funding over the next 5 years,
Per year?
at minimum. No, the first
So about
year,
a million a
the
year?
first year, we were looking at $4.3 million, but obviously, this has to be reviewed. I've got to talk to the participants about it, and then I'm going to be presenting it to the council.
Can I just ask one question about it? Does it include roads at all?
No.
And I'm only saying that, and it sounds cavalier, but it's one of the issues that we've been deferring, and it's another problem. It's, you know, so every time we turn around, we've created, you know, and I think what we were trying to talk about earlier was, let's try to get all the issues out on the table. So if it's, even if it's in the plan, it doesn't get addressed, it's
Right,
it's
well,
there.
the plan is under review
Okay.
at this point.
But I think that was the goal that we're trying to get to. is-
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
It's,
want to know everything that, you know, it's the ideal.
Yep.
And then what can we really afford?
Right.
And those are when the hard decisions have to be made. Once we go through and say, these are all the things that we feel we need,
Right.
and then we have to go through and say, what can we afford?
I agree, but
And if I can just, I know I said I wouldn't open my mouth again, but Ms. Polish mentioned earlier, and she mentioned it at last year's meeting, and I do think it's a good idea that we may want to consider that we work through the summer months. After the budget is done and we all take a breath and relax, then we spend some time on a continual basis going through the entire town so that we blend it with the school capital needs so that we can have a prioritized plan that we can start chipping away at.
I think that's an excellent idea to, as, even if we put together a subcommittee of members of the groups
Yes.
to do it. I mean, I think we've got, right now, I think we've probably got the best 3 groups together that will work together that I've seen in probably 10 of the last 20 years.
Great.
There were times where the council and the budget committee and school committee did work really well together. But believe it or not, even the years that we, prior to the school bonds, when we went out to the school bonds, as much as there are a number of people who are against doing what we did, they still worked hand in hand together, even though they were pretty vocal about what they wanted. At the end of the day, when they came, we all joined in. It was, we all tried to get the same issues and ideas out there so that people could do what they, get the right information. And I think that that's all we're trying to do, is just get
Absolutely.
work cooperatively to get the right information out to people, and then they can be the better judger of what we're actually doing is on behalf of them for the
I'll
community.
certainly take the responsibility from the school committee and to be looking at the end of June, beginning of
Till
July.
till I free up my schedule, that might be the first one I can make.
Thanks.
So we start reaching out to people then, and we'll just remind everyone we said we were going to do this, and we just need to do it.
I know we've got a lot to do, and we've got a lot of new members. I know my phone is available for anybody to call me or anybody on our committee, and I'm assuming the same goes both ways for,
Mine,
all
I'm
new
always
members.
available.
Yep,
Leave me
me
a message,
too.
email, call me.
Chris, can someone just let me know as to if you want us on the 17th or the
Okay.
24th, so I can...
Yeah, we'll know on Monday.
Okay.
I'll
We'll
let
know
you
on
know,
Monday.
Mr. Eric.
Yeah, we'll definitely, I will try, which is, that was a little, this is one of the problems I'm having these days, is trying to juggle all my venues, is, I thought I would probably try to publish the same schedule that we did last year in the same kind of format. Obviously, I think what I'm getting is that we would like to carve out some time in some of these meetings for additional things. And last year, if my memory serves me right, a number of our first meetings, we were done by 8:30. So, I'm not at all opposed to having the committee stay till 9:30.
You're not the chair, you won't be the chair to decide, right?
I don't know who that's gonna be yet, but it's, give you a forewarning, it's gonna be somebody. So, we'll make it work. Any other questions?
Seeing we're having a meeting on next Thursday, could we, Jim, get a expenditure account on what we've spent so far this year for the department, like you gave us last year?
Sure.
Could we have that for Thursday?
talking about
I already
like
asked Denise for it,
I
the
sent it
expense
to
and
you.
revenue report for December.
The only thing we have,
I
right,
sent it to you tonight before I got
Perfect.
here.
So it'll be valid up through December 30th, 31st, right?
Right,
Okay.
and I'll have copies for the budget committee on Thursday night.
I think we should update that like every 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, you only do it once a month,
Do it
though,
once a
right?
month.
Is it Monday?
once a month.
Well, we'll do
The
it.
expenses you can do more frequently, but the revenue, no,
Okay.
So the expenses,
are updated as they
so if we
occur
get them once a month,
typically.
should be fine.
Yeah, I think as you go through the revenues, my memory serves me right, and Jim will attest to this, that we pretty much know by looking at revenues, even though some of them are off, that there are some seasonal revenues that come in, like beaches and
Yeah, so you know that.
harbor fees, the mooring, we know that, while they're not accurate now, that there's a timing as to when they take place, that, so it's factoring in, but it's just basically looking at, to see if the trends are actually trending the way they should be. And that comes from years of looking at them, that, I don't think we have any really new fees out there, but,
Wish we did.
and that's, I know you've wrestled that with, for a number of years about looking at different fee structures, but at the end of the day, a fee is another tax. So, we should really look at trying to stabilize everything as much as we can over the next, couple of years, especially if we've got new bonding coming on and for libraries or whatever it's gonna be. And, I think that by and large, over the last couple of years, you've kept the municipal side of the budget fairly consistent, streamlined, and the schools have done the same. And, I think that we'll probably be in the same position by the time of this end of this budget season. I don't really see any really new, innovative, kind of expending extravaganza that's gonna happen. That's, I think that other than knowing where our base stands after the reval, which is just, to me, it's always a dark horse until after we're done. I don't know where we are with reval as it relates to like Bay Street area. Did that really have an impact? Is there litigation that may come out of that? I have no idea. So all those things kind of come into, do we have to find another way to massage that revenue to work in a different way without being too impactful on a homeowner? That's basically what we're going to look at. So, and I think that we'll get there. It's going to take some trial and effort and work. So.
And I think, as you said, I think this group is committed to working together. And bottom line, I think all of us, our main concern is for the town of Tiverton.
Yep.
Right.
And whether we like it or not, we're going to have to compromise.
Yep.
We're going to have to do what is, in general, what is best for the entire town and not for just small segments of it.
All right.
And I think that, hopefully we'll all work together and continue this process. Again, it just started. The council, I'm sure I can speak for them, saying that we're committed in working on this budget and making sure that we come up with the best numbers we can. And Jim has worked exceedingly hard on doing that, and I know that we have to fine tune it. And I'm sure the school committee and Mr. Rarick are going to do the same on their side, so that when we finally get to the numbers that we're going to finalize for the budget committee, that we're working with true numbers and what we truly believe this town needs.
One question to the school department. It seemed that I read that you thought that we were going to have an increase in state aid this year.
It's correct, by $77,000.
That is, I know the budget hasn't been passed on Smithville yet, but I'm just, from what I'm reading, with federal aid being cut to the state, and revenue numbers down to the state,
That's the number that the Department of Ed gives us, and it's the best available number. And because the process, as we all know, we have to begin so early, those are the numbers that we have. It's our best numbers. And we've talked about it before.
That's what RIDE
It's what RIDE gives us. It's not the governor's budget. And the governor, the last couple of years, the numbers have been higher. And that's correct. It is the General Assembly. At some point, they decide what to give us. But we have to use a number. And that's the number under the state aid formula that we're projecting, that we projected into the budget.
We will know much better as we get closer to May, where the state's going to stand. But historically, we have utilized the very first numbers that have come out of RIDE.
And it's just like with our retirement, we use the pension number that the state gives us.
Well, and with the funding formula, it's at least predictable.
It's been more predictable the last couple of years, that's correct.
And it has been fairly stable.
Yes. And we're fortunate that if it does hold, we're one of the few districts that's scheduled to get an increase. Some of our neighbors on the island are getting significant cuts.
And RIDE gets their formula, it's not all based on, there's a revenue stream that comes out of the feds for some of that. I forgot how they do that.
They calculate it.
It's not all based on
They
tax
build
revenue.
a per pupil number from 2006, it's like $8,200. And then they factor in the wealth of the community. They factor in your free and reduced hot lunch numbers. It's a very complex number. It's just not number of kids and a basic foundation formula. It's quite complex. And I believe Representative Edwards and Senator Felag a couple years ago, interceded on our behalf, and we've been able to get additional funds through the state aid formula.
I just don't, all the things that have happened over the last few years with all the, changes that have happened with state funding formulas, that I don't see them, and I have never seen it on the radar in the last year or so about, backing off on school aid. I just don't see it.
Just going by what I'm reading in the paper, and I just, when I budget a little differently, obviously, than they do, because I figure I'm gonna get a low number, everything else is gravy on top, so. The point is, I'm looking at the condition of the state and federal government, and just, looking at it with a weary eye.
But if we budget that way, that we're gonna get a little lower and everything else is gravy, we can't spend the gravy. We have to cut to the lower, which means we have to sacrifice programs on a number that we think might be lower when the state is saying, no, we're committed to giving you. So that's our.
I've seen it in past years where you got extra money and you kept the extra money and used it, so I kind of disagree with that. Because
But we can't use it in that fiscal year. We have to, it has to be part of the fund balance.
The additional, again, any additional funds that we have used have been for one-time expenses that we have brought before the budget, that get added to the fund balance. It's been very public. Again, it's items, for example, the fire suppression system. That $62,000 is something we won't have to ask for in next year's budget. So it goes to pay for things that the town would have to pay for.
no, that's why you keep a budget surplus, because you make sure you pull from the surplus.
Right, just like the town does.
So my point is, if you think about the lower number, conservative.
We don't have a lower number. We're using the only number they gave us. They don't give us a list of choices. It's a number, and they say this is what you're entitled to.
Well, I think it's been, it's been a point of contention in the past where.
Actually,
Right, numbers have been made up in the past, you're right.
but we use the more, we traditionally use the more conservative numbers. We've had budget committees in the past who have put higher numbers in.
That's
and we
right.
said, no, we don't want to use that higher
No.
number. So we try to use the most conservative number that we have and put together our budget and no more.
See how it goes,
I'm done, so, like toast, I'm burnt on both sides.
I like that one. Write that one down.
Unless anybody else has anything
Anybody
to
else
add.
have anything?
I greatly appreciate you all coming out and getting us off to a very amicable season, and I think it will work really well for us. So I'll close the meeting.
Yep, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Feel better.
I've got to eat back in.